power of words through your vocal cords or your mind creates waves and is significant. But think about this. As a lawyer, it's very important to me on how I frame arguments or communicate certain words, because words carry what? Context. And context carries what? Or creates what? Context can create emotion, reaction, action, motivation, drive. These words I'm speaking through the mic out into the universe and through this podcast, whether you watch it or you listen to the audio version, are creating energy and impact to others. So the value and the power of words, right, is significant. And the individual words you use in the context that you use them, hugely significant. Bam. Yo, what is up, everybody? This is the End-to-End Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Yun Win, also known as the Ninja, and you can call me Ninja too. This is the End-to-End Podcast, the Alpha to the Omega, the beginning to the end, talking about life, motivation, drive, entrepreneurship, success, and offering you pearls and morsels in this all-you-can-eat buffet called life. Back in the studio, super excited. It is March, officially under single digits in this cycle of 75 Hard. Just got done with an athletic workout this morning with my 4:30 a.m. crew. We've been going heavy for the last 4 months, so we kind of shifted it up to more athletic type movements. And it's been good. It's been loosening up the joints. I'm feeling real good this morning. Glad to be back in the studio. And as always, I start my show with gratitude, just like I start my day. So I want to say thank you to everybody out in the universe that is listening to this podcast, getting value out of it, and most importantly, sharing the podcast. This is all done on my own money, my own dime, my own time. So the only way we grow the show is through shares. And so if you find value in this show or any show, or think I've done a good job in communicating a message that you can use, please do share the show. If your knowledge swole, share the show. That's how we grow. Spring is just around the corner, man. My allergies feel the pollen in the air. You know, the leaves are changing, flowers blooming, animals are out. I hear the birds chirping on my outdoor workouts. So life and vitality is being restored after, especially after COVID and everything like that. But it brings me to my thought for today. And before I get to the punchline of today's episode, which is about change, I got to say one thing about how I kind of view the universe. And this is actually a subject for a mega podcast. But the power of waves, vibrations, and energy. I will say that once you understand that waves, vibration, and energy control the dynamic of the universe, you would have unlocked one of the major keys in how you manifest or actualize what you want out of this life, and beyond. Understanding this concept is kind of like one of the infinity stones in Thanos' glove, the whatever you call that glove. A little bit of a nerd me coming out, but point being is that it's one of those things that when you understand that we receive and give out waves of energy and vibrations of energy, and that's how we actually control our environment, control our relationships, and so forth, you will understand how to get to that next level, or how to actualize this lifetime, or understand how to maximize your time here, your precious time here on this earth, or in this realm, or in this three-dimensional matrix. And the matrix is essentially that you cannot see, but it is that those waves and those vibrations all around us, shaping and formulating material things, but also conceptual things, our thoughts, our minds, and all that. Because when you think about it, what are our thoughts? Right? They're impulses, electrical impulses that do what? They create waves. And those waves turn into actions through our emotions, our thoughts. Our brain converts our body, which is just a vehicle to do what we are thinking or what we want to do. But similarly, what else creates waves? Well, that would be our voice box, right? Our voice box. And so for those of you who don't, who want a little more in-depth understanding of what that means, is that our vocal cords are like flaps, which air passes through. Kind of like if you had a piece of paper and blew on it, the paper vibrates and makes a noise. Similarly, our voice box or our vocal cords are flaps, and as air passes through it, through the force of our lungs, that creates vibration, and the vibration creates waves, and the waves are what you hear, right? Just like a tuning fork or guitar string or whatever. When it vibrates at a certain frequency, amplitude, altitude, a certain thickness of chord, that's where you have deeper and lower voices, or higher and lower voices. It creates waves and sound. And that leads me to today's topic, because the power of words through your vocal cords, even through your thought, is significant. Let me repeat that. The power of words through your vocal cords or your mind creates waves and is significant. But think about this. As a lawyer, it's very important to me on how I frame arguments or communicate certain words, because words carry what? Context. And context carries what? Or creates what? Context can create emotion, reaction, action, motivation, drive. These words I'm speaking through the mic out into the universe and through this podcast, whether you watch it or you listen to the audio version, are creating energy and impact to others. So the value and the power of words, right, is significant. And the individual words you use in the context that you use them, hugely significant. Think about this. When you write a word down, what do they call it? Spelling. Well, the root of that is spell. And so if you go historically, what do what would you call them? Medicine man or go to witches or whatever, oracles do. They cast spells. Spelling spells. So when you write out a word, you're casting a spell when you vocalize it. More than vocalize, let's say verbalize, right? When we talk, we verbalize. Well, verb is an action. The word verb itself is a word for action. So when you verbalize, you're creating action into the universe. And that's how important words are. So let me loop this way back to the beginning. It's springtime and things are changing, right? And this is a podcast about success and motivation and drive, right? And in order to do that, we have to change. We have to change our habits. We have to change the way we do things, to change the way we think. We have to change. But what does change imply? What is the context or the connotation of change, the word change? All right? To me, change actually is a carries a negative context or a negative vibration, because change implies you're doing something wrong. Change implies you're doing something wrong and you need to do it right. And nobody wants to feel like they're doing things wrong. Or alternatively, people have a hard time admitting that they're doing something wrong. And that's why change is so hard to do. People are resistant to change because in order to change, you have to admit that you're doing something wrong. And people don't want to hear the truth about themselves for whatever reason. And so they are resistant to change. Where have you ever heard the idea that change is easy? Right? Anytime you're related to the word change, it's surrounded by change is difficult, change is painful. All these negative emotions and vibrations and frequencies around the word change. Because change also brings about fear of the future, fear if it works or fear if it doesn't work, uncertainty, insecurity, doubt. Change creates all these things that just makes you inactive, and therefore very few people change. But let's think about it in another way. I personally, rather than use the word change, let's use the word evolve. Evolve when we're thinking about success. Okay? Because what? There is an inherent rule of nature. There's certain rules about nature and physics that are immutable, meaning it's set in stone. And one of those rules in nature is evolution is constant, right? Or change is constant, but evolution is better. Evolution is constant because we have to evolve to what? Survive. And the more we evolve, we actually thrive. The whole concept of survival of the fittest. Nature is built to evolve to what? Survive and hopefully thrive. Those that don't evolve, they go what? Extinct, or they die. So instead of change, we evolve. And evolve carries a positive connotation because it means we're getting better through the process. We're increasing our likelihood of survivability or thriving through evolution. It's an upward movement when we evolve. It means growth. You don't evolve backwards. You constantly evolve forward and up. You don't evolve down, because if you evolve down, you go extinct quicker. You die faster. Nature is not designed like that. Nature is designed to evolve to survive. Remember, survival of the fittest. So when you think about it, it's the exact same thing. Change and evolve mean the same thing. You're doing something different, but they carry different frequency and vibration, a different spelling, a different incantation, a different connotation. Change, hard, difficult, fear, doubt. Evolve, growth, survival, thriving, next level. You see? You see? So instead of, I need to change my habits, which implies, man, my habits are bad, or, I got to do all this work in order to get better. How about I got to evolve my habits? Meaning I just got to do a little more, or look at it differently, or create different things for growth and survivability and thriving. Right? I got to change my approach to life because what I'm thinking about and what I'm doing is making me depressed, and etc. Well, you have to admit that you're doing and thinking things wrong, right? Versus, I need to evolve my approach for life so that I can survive and thrive and grow. Subtle hint of difference can make a dramatic, huge impact on your life and on your pathway. Whether you're starting or whether you're down the road of success can get you there. I personally am in a constant mode of evolution, meaning I constantly think, what can I do to get better? What can I think about to get better? How can I approach things to get better? How can I speak to other people to get them better? It's an evolutionary process. And actually what brought this about is my son, who's 15, turning to 16, we had a conversation this weekend, right? About evolving our relationship between he and I. Because we're kind of in that crossroads where it's and that's the thing. Evolution can be about your approach to relationships, not just about you. But taking this back, we're at that point where I can no longer treat him as a child or a young man. It's got to evolve into a relationship where we're seeing eye to eye as man to man. So our conversation and our relation and the things we talk about and how we approach life, he's at that transition point where now we're looking eye to eye, even though he's taller than me physically, but we're looking eye to eye, right? Where we're speaking man to man, where I know that he's taking care of his business, I'm taking care of my business, and we can talk about those issues versus he he still having that child mindset, and I'm sitting there telling him what to do. It's an evolution, because what happens if he doesn't evolve into a conversation of man to man, then our relationship is stagnant. It stays stagnant, and what happens to stagnancy? There's no growth, there's no development, there's no moving forward, and eventually it may die out or become extinct, because there's an incongruity around the values of a parent-child relationship versus a man-to-man relationship. So if he evolves, then we're man-to-man, and our relationship what? Survives and thrives and flourishes. Okay? So it's a constant viewpoint of evolution, not change. Get the idea of change out of your head. We have to evolve systems, thought processes, actions, habits, behaviors, all these things. So how do you evolve? There's lots of ways to evolve, but there are three quick tips I'm going to give you. The first, you're going to ask, well, what do I do to look at things as evolution instead of changing? The first is learn to be responsible for everything about your life. You cannot evolve, survive, much less thrive, if you're constantly looking for someone else to blame for your deficiency. You have to own it. You have to own it. You have to own your life, the good and the bad. Because when you own it, then you know what you need to do to evolve. You need to know what things about your life that needs evolution in order to get better. But if you cannot own it, the faults, the mistakes, the good and the bad, that you can't evolve. Right? You have to be full with yourself in order to grow and evolve. One side can't evolve and the other side stays stagnant. When you're this side that's blaming everyone else, and this side where you're only taking responsibility for the good stuff. Can't do that. You have to evolve as a whole being, mentally, physically, spiritually. Evolution. That's evolution. Okay. The second component, and it's tied in with the first. Evolution doesn't care about feelings. Just go out and look at nature. Lions will prey on the babies of antelope herds because they are the weakest and the most fragile and easy to prey on. But you can't have feelings about that. Right? Evolution does not care about feelings. Think about it. If the lion cared about the baby antelope, then he'd have to fight the strong, mature antelope. And that doesn't make sense. That's much more effort and puts the lion more at risk. So the lion doesn't care. The lion just cares about feeding his tribe and eating himself or herself, the lioness herself. So to be an evolutionary being, you have to think about things factually, realistically. Think about results of the evolutionary process. Why are you doing things? But you got to remove that emotional aspect out of your actions and your decisions. Yes, emotions are important. How you feel and taking inventory of that is very important. But when it comes to evolving for success, thriving, building a legacy for you and your family, there's no emotion in it. No emotion. Because emotion brings what? Indecision, hesitancy, decisions based on how you feel versus how you feel about a result versus the actual result. It results in, one of my reels or podcasts is like, oh, I did enough. I tried my best. Which, you're excusifying, if that's a word. You're creating an excuse for not performing to your optimal. I tried my best. No, you got to be factual with it. My best was not good enough. I need to work harder. You see that? There's no emotions in evolution. Science, physics, there's no emotion. It's very factual, right? So 1, again, own everything. 2, take emotions out of it. And 3, know who you are and how you can get better. Okay, know who you are and how you can get better. And what does that mean? You need to be more introspective, more meditative, more assessing about looking within instead of on your phone or being distracted with the world outside. Understanding yourself, right? Where you are at any given time. I had that podcast not too long ago about the matrix and all that stuff, knowing where you are. And when you do that, you understand where you need to improve to evolve, right? And what you can be doing to improve to evolve, right? Very core concepts that I have about myself. Always be learning, ABL. Always be seeking knowledge. It's two different things. Learning can be through, both of these can be done through reading, talking to people, understanding human behavior, life, traits of very successful people, trying to emulate, try to copy this, try to copy that, pull the best from all around you and apply it to yourself, right? Always be learning. Learning is about book stuff, items of fact. Always be seeking knowledge, and wisdom is a little bit more, how should I say, intangible. You're learning about life. And again, there's no book about life on how to live it. So you have to get that through wisdom. Wisdom is acquired through reading, talking, all these other things, but also through experience. Going out and doing things, willing to risk failure. And through that failure, you gain wisdom. Okay? That's how you get that introspection. Meditating, understanding who you are, finding that internal vibration and frequency of yours. And what do you need to do to expand that and evolve? And I'll give you a quick insider hint of what I do. I visualize myself, my inner self, like its own tuning fork, right? Now, I can be a small tuning fork where the vibration is tight and tiny and makes a high-pitched noise but doesn't last long, or I can be a massive tuning fork where when you hit it, it's like a big, massive gong creating huge vibrationary waves, yet you would have to imagine or visualize. Right? I like to think of myself as the second one, where it's a huge tuning fork that's constantly growing. So the waves and vibrations that I'm making, and if you're listening to this on audio, I'm swinging my hands side to side. The waves that I'm creating are huge and impactful throughout the stretch of the world. That's what I visualize for myself in terms of my introspective vibration. So that hopefully the force and the magnitude and the reach of these waves creates a massive impact on the world, right? So, going back to it, think about evolving instead of changing. Evolve your life, don't change your life. Okay, connotation, context, vocalization, words matter in context. And to evolve, think about owning everything, the good and the bad about your life. That is an absolute must to evolve. If you don't do that, you can't evolve. I'm sorry to say. Because there will always be a hole or a gap that's going to not allow you to survive or thrive. Okay, you got to own everything. Secondly, you can't evolve based on emotion. Got to be factual about it. Be real about whatever the issue is, whatever your life is, wherever you are. You got to be real. Okay? And thirdly, you need to introspect and know who you are in order to evolve from there to grow to that next level and survive at that level and thrive and then move up to evolve to the next one and the next one and the next one. That's how it works, folks. That's how it works. You got to evolve. It is a immutable law of nature that everything evolves, because if you don't evolve, you either die off or become extinct. And nobody wants to have that kind of legacy. At least if you're all about success, you don't want to have that kind of legacy. Businesses have to evolve. Careers have to evolve. Your life has to evolve. This has been another episode of the End-to-End Podcast. Again, follow us on all socials, N2N Podcast. If you have any questions, please feel free to get on Instagram or wherever, DM me, leave a comment on YouTube, or email me at ask@the2npodcast.com. If you found value in the show, you remember our mission is to affect and inspire the lives of billions across this planet in a very positive way and build that vibration for the whole earth to thrive and survive and thrive and evolve in a very positive, loving, and enlightened way. Please, please, please share the show. If your knowledge swole, share the show. That's how we grow. Thank you for listening. Hope you gained something out of this. Looking forward to bringing you another episode of the End-to-End Podcast very, very soon. Ninja out.